Hello.
I'm out of practice. I'm sorry.
All right. Can you put me on the top? Sorry. I don't want to be that person. But...
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Rough start to the show.
I'm Wait.
While you're doing that, hello and welcome to We'll Throw the After Party, your favorite weekly late night show. I am your host this week, Cyclone MC. I am a Jane Austen fan, and I'm taking over because our usual host Liz is having a New York minute, living it up, doing all the fun things. So be sure to go give at producer Liz all the love today. But joining me, the usual band of hooligans, we got Marissa. How's it going?
Hello. I truly cannot figure this out. I don't know why. It literally won't let me move you. Oh, wait. I did it.
There we go.
That was so hard. Okay.
We go.
Click and drag, everyone. Hi. How are we?
How are you? Who
good.
are you?
I'm good. I finished college yesterday. Graduation is tomorrow. So feeling very accomplished. And very weird. But I'm here. I'm ready.
You're ready for the party.
Hell yeah.
We also have the illustrious Alexis. Who are you? How are you? What's going on in your life?
I'm Alexis, and things are things. Life is life.
Life
is
Life
life.
is life.
That's what I got for you tonight. Yeah.
We're having an off week this week. It's fine. It's a casual day. We're just having some time. This is my 5th live show of the day. So my lovely co-hosts didn't tell you who they are, what they do, and where to find them.
Okay,
so
you didn't ask that part.
I did. I said, "Who are you? How are you?"
I was distracted. I was really distracted by dragging your video. I'm so sorry. Right. Would you like us to try again?
Let's try it again.
Hard restart.
Hello and welcome. No, we're not doing the whole thing. But Marissa, who are you? Where can people find you? Like, where are you? What's going on?
Okay.
All the things we always do.
Okay. Hi, my name's Marissa. I'm at Missabopissa on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and I talk about theater, wigs, and anything on Disney Plus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alexis, who are you? Where are you?
This gets a little complicated. I'm complicated. I was going to talk about this later. I am Alexis. You know me as Alexis Blake Reads Comics. That is still true on TikTok. But May and June have been big months of self-discovery for me. So I have rebranded myself on the rest of the internet. So anywhere else you want to find me, I'm at Alexis D as in dog Blake with an _ on Twitter and Instagram. And I talk about all sorts of stuff. Life and comics and cats and 911.
Really pulled a Liz and said, surprise rebrand.
Surprise rebrand, yeah.
Okay, I think I did this right. Hold on, let's find out.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. That's right, yeah.
There we go. And yes, Claw, this is my 5th live show of the day, which brings us to what we've been enjoying this week. What I've been enjoying this week is hanging out with my friends over at Point in Progress and our friends over on 61 Indie. We've been doing lots and lots of content for y'all this week. It is hot game summer. This is what used to be known as E3. We've made a rebrand. Don't listen to Best Buy and their dumb sale. That's not Hot Game Summer. We're Hot Game Summer. You can check out all of the things at 61 Indie, all spelled out like WONEINDIE.com/summer. But yes, I've been on 4 shows already today. This is number 5, and I've just been enjoying all of these amazing returns of some of our most anticipated games, lots of like world premieres and announcements for games. There's 3 I want to talk about in particular. The first of all will be in interest to all of our Marvel fans here. There is a new Marvel game that's in the works coming soon called Midnight Suns that I'm very excited about. Had a really dope trailer at Summer Games Fest, so that's really exciting. I don't know where Marissa went, but I'm also an indie boy. I love the indie games, and there was a solo dev from Chicago, actually. Shout out to Chicago. By
Woo,
the
I'm back.
name of I think it's Madison Kitch or something. Her handle is at Handful of Bugs, making a very cute game called Birth. For all of those who are simping over Conchu, there's lots of skulls, lots of floating skulls. Very exciting. And then the other biggest announcement that was pretty exciting is, if you don't know, Netflix has games on their mobile app. Fun fact, apparently a lot of people didn't know about. And one of the games that is getting a mobile port via the Netflix app is a game called Spiritfarer, which is a very cozy game about helping guide spirits to resolve any of their like ties to their life pre unaliving and moving on. And it's a beautiful game, and I'm very excited that it's getting a chance to come to mobile phones via Netflix. If you
Now,
want to
is
know
that the
any
one with-
other
Is that the one with the
Huh?
ghosties, or is the ghosties a different one?
There's lots of ghosts. There's been so many ghosts. I've seen over like 250 games in the past like 3 days. I don't know if but yeah, like I said, I've been doing lots of games content. If you want to hear my thoughts on any of that stuff, please check it out. So that's I haven't had time to enjoy anything else. So, my friends, what have you been enjoying this week? What's going on in the world outside of video games? Please tell me.
Well, it's the start of like Emmy season. It's the start of the for your consideration campaigns for the Emmys, because the eligibility window ends at the end of May. And so now everybody is campaigning for nominations, and then they'll get nominations, and then they'll campaign again to win. So there's a ton of press to be watching. There's a whole new season of Actors on Actors from Variety, which I've been just gobbling up. And all kinds of fun press. Taika Waititi and Rhys Darby from Our Flag Means Death. Plug. Did the Vanity Fair lie detector test that was posted yesterday. I have watched it 3 times. It is incredible. Highly recommend. So I've been enjoying a lot of Emmys press, and that's it for me.
What would you say is like the essential what's been your favorite of all the Emmys press so far? If somebody would go check out a single thing, what would it be?
I really, really enjoyed the Sandra Oh, Jung Ho-yeon Actors on Actors that I believe was posted yesterday. It's such an interesting conversation. Obviously, Andrew Garfield and Zendaya was also great, but I really, really enjoyed listening to Ho-yeon and Sandra Oh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Alexis, what have you been enjoying?
Literally only the Lost Leonardo and everything surrounding the Lost Leonardo. So there's a documentary. It was finished in 2021, but it recently moved around on some streaming platforms, which put it kind of back in the spotlight. It's called The Lost Leonardo, and it's based on reporting in the book The Last Leonardo. But it's about a painting, the Salvator Mundi, which is a painting of Christ, that was originally sold at auction for between $1,100 and $1,500 and was believed to be painted by the student of the student of the student of Leonardo da Vinci, and would less than a decade later go on to be sold for $425 million at auction, and would be accredited through some complicated means to Da Vinci, and would also become, a part of like international crime, would be sold to the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. It's a big deal. I could go on and on and on, and I have. But it's a solid documentary. And if you are interested in it, I do also suggest Made You Look, which is a documentary on Netflix about the forgery ring that took down the Knoedler Gallery. There are very similar vibes in the commentary on the role museums should play in painting authentication. I did find the book to be pretty dry because it's more about Leonardo da Vinci, and I'm more interested in crime. But I do recommend it. So everyone should check it out. I've watched it about 6 times. I recommend it. That was my week.
3 out of 5, not enough crime.
Yeah, 3 out of 5, not enough crime. I was like, what is this? I don't need to know that Leonardo da Vinci was important. I don't care. Tell me more about the CIA figuring out that this painting was a part of like international drug deals. Like, that's what I want to know about. So
very exciting. With that, we have lots of thoughts and feelings about everything going on in life. And with that, let's transition to a beloved segment of the show, everybody's favorite moment. We're gonna rant about some stuff. I always stumble trying to explain this game. So for anybody who might not be familiar, Marissa, will you tell them what the heck is up with the rants?
Oh, okay. So the rants is a segment in which we have some time allotted to just rage about whatever we want, or, not rage and celebrate something. But we get 2 interrupted minutes. I was going to say uninterrupted minutes, which is not accurate. But we each get 2 minutes to talk about whatever we want, but only in 30-second increments. So we will be cut off by the next person after 30 seconds and have to continue our rant later.
Beautiful.
Liz does it better, but
incredible. Still better than I could have gotten. So we're going to give you a little teaser about what our rants are before we jump into this. Mine is a friend of the show, JJ, has a wonderful quote, and I will be using that quote as basis for my argument that you should read fics for shows you'll never watch. Alexis?
I am ranting about everything I did this week except come up with a rant, because I didn't do that.
Real fly energy this week.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, you're rubbing off on me, I guess. Yeah.
And Marissa?
I have had my rant since last week. I promote it then. I'm going to be ranting about the Tony Awards. I see lots of energy in the comments for the Tony Awards. We're going to get into it.
Incredible. All right. With that, oh gosh, I have to kick it off, huh? I'm not usually the first rant. How does Liz do this every week? This is stressful. All right. Ready? Set? Go. All right. So JJ has this wonderful quote that I love that he says all the time, that is, transformative works are the product of unfulfilled narrative promises. And this is important because it means you should read fan fiction for fandoms you're not a part of or for properties you have never consumed, because the best way to experience a narrative that for something you don't care about is via fan fiction, because it takes all the good and erases the bad.
So I went to work. I worked some this week. I worked 12-hour shifts in a chemical lab. It's really not fun. And for that entire 12 hours, I just listened to people talk about crime. So I did that. I decided that I was going to read through all of the training handbooks for the police and sheriff offices in the surrounding counties. So I started that. That was a fun time. Let's see. What did the cats do this week? So this week, Tommy and Sassy decided...
I can't watch the Tony Awards tomorrow because I have to graduate college. And that's not fair. I watch the Tony Awards every single year, and I can't watch them because I have to sit in a little arena wearing a little gown that's like polyester and gross and sit there for 2 hours to wait for someone to call my name so I can walk across the stage and pick up a piece of paper when I should be watching Ariana DeBose host the Tony Awards.
All right, this is going to be a brief tangent. I've been reading a fic that I will not mention on this show, but it has made me very nostalgic for like early Wattpad. That's a whole other conversation. But why you should read fics for shows you've never watched. I've been reading a shit ton of Supernatural fan fiction lately, and I will never watch that show because I know it is a bad show and I don't want to get hate crimed every episode. But the fan fiction around that show is so prevalent and so interesting and very good.
So Tommy and Sassy have an automatic feeder. You usually hear it on our show around 8. And the reviews on Amazon said it was hack proof, and it wasn't. My cats have hacked it. So they discovered if they pushed hard enough to separate the bowl from the top, all the food would just pour out. So I spent about 30 minutes duct taping it to my wall so it wouldn't fall apart while I was at work. So that happened. Then I decided that I needed to completely redo my kitchen because I watched too much 911 Lone Star. And so I ordered this rug that kind of looked like the rug.
I'm seeing some energy in the comments saying, Marissa, just do both. Watch while you're graduating. And that's inevitably what will happen because I will be sitting there for 2 hours waiting for someone to call my name on my phone, live updating Twitter to find out who is winning what. Because this is the one thing that I never want to miss. Like, I host, like, watch parties. I make themed desserts. This is my thing. Sly, your mic is off.
Ah, fuck. There's a couple keys to being successful in enjoying content from a fandom you're not a part of. 1, have a friend who's into that fandom who you can ask all the dumb questions to. 2, you want AUs, okay? So you're going to include the tag for alternate universe, any of them. But you want to exclude alternate universe canon divergence because those are rooted in canon and we don't want that energy here.
So I got some new rugs that kind of looks like the rugs in somebody's apartment. We don't need to talk about it. And I spent a lot of time trying to redo my kitchen around those rugs, but it looks great. It worked out well. And then I decided to help my mother sell all my childhood belongings, which was a great experience in not understanding how people looked over my neurodivergence my entire life. So that was a fun time. But most importantly, I read a bunch of really good fan fiction, and that on the hierarchy for me.
Okay, while I have this time, I would like to establish some of my Tony predictions. Company and Strange Loop will sweep the musical categories. I love 6. Strange Loop is too strong. I'm so sorry. I don't know how I feel about lead actress in a musical, but I also don't really have any opinions about the plays. I wasn't really invested this year, but it's I need to be there. I need to be a part of this.
So when you're going through, you gotta find the good authors, right? So this is where the friend comes in. Ask for recommendations. Okay? And don't be afraid to not give a fuck about most of the characters, right? They're just set dressing, their background. You're here for the story, okay? And embrace the chaos of not knowing, is this an OC? Is this a canon character? Just have fun with it. You'll have a blast, I promise.
So I read a bunch of really good fanfic, and then I had a conversation with a friend where they had asked for recommendations about a specific type of fanfic because it was a field I was familiar with. And I was like, I don't have any for you. So then I just decided to write one. So then I spent about 12 hours doing that. So that was fun times. And that took a lot of energy. And then I downloaded one of those kitchen games on my phone. And I also did that instead of coming up with a rant. So there you go.
The Tony Awards ceremony opening number is something that I truly look forward to all year. And the fact that I'm going to be sitting in an arena seat listening to speeches during it is really upsetting to me. I will definitely be live tweeting my opinions on things that don't matter because I won't actually be watching it. But if you want to follow along, follow me on Twitter at @MissAbobissa. And if you want to hear my actual thoughts about the Tonys after they've happened, come to Thirsty Thursdays on Thursday with JJ and Sly.
Incredible. Love the plug. Love that for you. Love that for us. Yeah, do we have any closing thoughts? I have a closing thought about Alexis's rant because I know I asked you about a very niche type of fanfiction this week.
No! That didn't happen at all!
Huh. Interesting.
Weird!
So that's a closing thought for my rant.
Really weird.
Interesting.
about that.
I don't have a closing thought. I think I covered it all. I'm frustrated that I can't watch the Tony Awards. Oh my God, I didn't even talk about the most important part is that Andrew Garfield is presenting and I can't watch it. Oh, if you have a bingo card, there's the square for Marissa frothed at the mouth about Andrew Garfield. Check that one off.
I think that was a Melody ad too. I think Melody threw you under the bus with that one.
Thanks so much, Melody. Love that.
So Marissa, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is it for your graduation? Did you decorate your cap? Is that a thing that they do where you go to school? That wasn't a thing that we did, but I've seen that on the interwebs.
People do it. I am a commitment phobe. I can't make any decisions, so I wouldn't want to put something on there that I will regret in 6 months. So I kept it blank.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
My high school cap was Paciencia y Fe.
That's cute.
Well done.
I did see a Scarlet Witch crown on Twitter yesterday. That was really cool. I liked that. But yeah, I would be scared that I would regret it immediately and be like, really? That's what you have forever on your head when you graduated college? Really? So no. Keeping it generic.
Gotcha.
All right.
Should we talk about Ms. Marvel?
Let's get into it.
I'm so excited to finally talk about a show I liked.
I'm so excited. I don't have any Miss Marvel stuff. So I am wearing my Higher Further Faster shirt because we are both Captain Marvel stans. And I was like, that's close enough to represent Miss Marvel. Yeah. Episode 1 came out.
Super quick before we get into it. Hi, TikTok. Please join us on YouTube and Twitch from the link in bio. You can click on my name or Sly's name or Alexis's name and go to the little thingy and you can see us on YouTube and all of our lovely graphics. Bye. Okay. Sorry.
Great. No, thank you. Please interrupt me when I forget things because I don't usually host the show. Yeah, Miss Marvel came out. We're all pretty dang excited to have a show we actually like to talk about. And for our friends, we want you to be able to enjoy the show however, whenever you want. So before we dive into all of our thoughts, all of our segments around the show, let's give a quick, brief, spoiler-free thoughts, opinions, vibes. How were you feeling about Miss Marvel post episode 1? Anybody want to kick it off? All right, I'll start.
I feel like it's hard because I feel like there's not a lot of spoilery things to talk about. I feel like it's a lot more vibes than spoiler moments.
Miss Marvel had incredible moments, like you said, but for me, the most exciting part of the show was having something I was looking forward to enjoy, right?
Mhm.
This is, it has, deep, hard-hitting moments. It has very interesting commentary. It has fun powers. It looks really cool. All the things we love from a Marvel project, but I'm not dreading watching an episode every week, which is something that's been happening a lot recently for me, is I haven't been able to feel motivated or excited about the next project, and I feel like I'm watching it because I'm making content about it. And so to have a show that I just had so much fun with and
Mhm.
enjoyed so much was probably like that's my thoughts without getting into specifics.
Yeah, after I watched it, I tweeted, I smiled through the entire episode, and I truly did. Like, even the more the less fun moments, I was still
Mhm.
smiling because I was like, this is good. I'm having a good time
Mhm.
watching this. And I also really feel like this show knows it's a show
Mhm.
and is
Mhm.
utilizing the format
Mhm.
appropriately. Like
Mhm.
it understands the platform it has and is using that.
It's written like
It's
a
written the
TV
way it's
show.
supposed to be written. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a TV show written like a TV show rather than a 6-hour movie. Even though it's, for now, just a 6-episode snippet. But it is like acknowledging its format in a way that I feel like a lot of the previous Marvel shows have not. Alexis?
So I think my two big like non-spoilery takeaways. The first one to me is that Miss Marvel, like the brand identity of the show within itself was very clear to me. Like I feel like there are a lot of other MCU shows that like could have traded each other out and I wouldn't have noticed. Like I feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier felt very similar to like Moon Knight, for example. I think we got to a point where we were kind of getting the same show like over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that Miss Marvel in its animation and its editing, and we're going to talk about it a little more later, was very clear. Like I knew from the jump what that show was going to look like, and it didn't disappoint, and it felt like its own entity, right? Like a very particular brand that fit that character. I really liked that experience. And the second was that I felt that the story was incredibly relatable. I think there are a lot of things about Miss Marvel that like on in theory feel very niche in a good way, like I'm like, I don't know that I will necessarily relate to like a Pakistani immigrant, for example, right? Like I'm excited to watch it. I don't know that I will relate to that story. And then I got through the episode and I was like, this is an incredibly relatable, I think, coming of age story, right? I think it's especially relatable and representative to that community, but I think the story as a show is a very relatable and necessary story. And so that was incredibly exciting for me. I felt that story like had meaning even outside of the MCU in a way that a lot of the other MCU shows to me, I don't feel have really had a story that is impactful outside of its own world, if that makes any sense. So.
Yeah, I think the specificity of it makes it more relatable, more approachable. Rather, I feel like the like broad sort of like you don't really know what's going on, like Hawkeye type energy makes it a lot harder to like connect with the characters where you're not really getting specifics about who they are. Whereas this is like an extremely specific character. I just want to
And it
keep
really
using the word specific.
It really understands that when you tell a story that feels well-rounded and feels very, I'm not going to say specific,
I know.
but feels very grounded in telling a very particular story, more people can find pieces of that connect with them, because there are more pieces there to connect with. When you're telling a
Yes.
generalized story, everything is so meh. There's no details that can draw you in. And looking at the show, there's so many details that everybody can find at least one thing in this show to relate to, right?
Well, I
And when
just
we're
said
looking at the
exactly what I
generalized,
wanted to say. So much
we got there.
better.
We got there eventually.
I also I've been watching a lot of press for it because I like to watch press. And one thing that Aman Vellani plays Ms. Marvel, plays Khan, keeps saying is that specificity is representation. And I think that is so well represented. I keep saying the same words over and over again. But that rings so true within this show that if you have a specific and detailed and well developed character, there's so much more to feel represented by. I'm so excited.
And with that, we're now in full spoiler territory. So if you have not checked out the episode, go check it out. Come back. We'll be here on the replay. But we're gonna kick off this segment with your WTF moment of the week. Mine's kind of a rant, so I'm gonna put myself last here. Marissa, what was your WTF moment this week?
Let me bring it up quickly.
Yeah.
I truly can't stop thinking about it since the moment I saw it. I was like, the like self-awareness of this show to be like, we are in fandom and speaking to fandom in such a particular way that it's like, we see your America's ass, we raise you this. Just incredible.
Iconic.
Yes.
Alexis?
So I was really excited about the podcast, and then I started kind of reading articles because I kind of wanted to see what other people thought, and now I'm confused because some people in these articles are telling me that this was like a one-off interview with Scott Lang, right? Like Terry Gross sat down and interviewed Scott Lang, and that's what we were seeing. And then some people, like my initial assumption was that it was like Scott Lang's podcast, right? Like he is doing a podcast about this week. So I don't know what you all thought, but that's what I was going with. And I thought one of the things about that was really interesting is that the Ant-Man films really have unreliable narrators in a way that's really compelling, right? Because you have characters telling their biased opinions of the story, right? And that's kind of the story that we follow. And so I thought it kind of sets ground for this interesting commentary or interesting conversation about, like, if Scott Lang is the one telling you about like the Battle of Earth, like what kind of biased opinions or biased story is he putting forward that has now become a part of the public discourse? And I think that's a conversation that has been happening in other avenues of media lately. Like, you can't believe everything that you see on TikTok. Like, I'm somebody that watches a lot of documentaries, right? And one of the really fascinating things about that to me is that documentaries are truth-telling stories that are still telling whatever truth that they set out to tell at the beginning of the story. So a lot of times you research a documentary at the end of it and you find out that they left out a bunch of stuff, right? Or like so-and-so wasn't not included because they weren't nice. They were not included because they, passed away or whatever, right? And so I think it's interesting to kind of set up this explanation of this big Marvel event from one specific character. And I would love to see more conversation on and off the show about kind of the biases that would go into that and how that would shape public perception. And, does Scott Lang have a sponsor that's influencing in the way he talks about Battle for Earth, and is Under Armour claiming that they like sponsored everybody's uniforms for that? Like, I want to know.
So yeah. I also thought it was a Scott Lang podcast. So I looked up an image, and apparently my dyslexic ass doesn't know how to read. So the title was Big Me, Little Me, a Scott Lang interview.
Okay.
Where it says interview, I thought that's a podcast. I was wrong.
Yeah.
So apparently it is just an
It's the
interview with Scott Lang.
Yeah.
And it's got the This Powered Life, which gives
It's
This American Life energy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I also thought it was a Scott Lang hosted podcast because Kamala says like something about the Scott Lang like series of interviews, and I was like, oh, so Scott is having interviews with like other Avengers, Mew tech people, but now it seems like it's just Scott giving interviews.
Like it's the Scott Lang press tour, you know.
He deserves it. If anybody.
I mean, he does.
So yeah.
He also deserves his spot in Rogers the Musical. Let's be real. Ant-Man
I have
should be at the Battle
kind of two WTF moments. My fake one is WTF was that helmet made out of? Seriously? Like, how is that secured and then punching through? But that's whatever. My real WTF is, y'all, we gotta have a conversation here. Because
we do. I'm so excited
the
for this.
representation of parents in media, especially in coming of age stories, is very particular, and so often it's shown as this like out of touch, doesn't understand, doesn't know how to connect with their kid kind of parent in these coming of age stories, which fine, yes, there's a place for it, but that type is grossly overrepresented. Parents who don't understand but go out of their way to show that they care and are trying to connect is radical, and y'all are focusing way too much on the overprotective like immigrant parent narrative, which is important and it's there and I understand, but come on, the fact that both parents are trying so hard to connect with their kids and to understand the things they're passionate about and relate to them and stay up all night creating a costume that is indicative of their culture but also ties in their interest. It's so cool.
They're
Why
so
are we
cute.
ragging on this? They're so cute. Like,
it's also that like I'm stealing your WTF moment, but it's the teen coming of age parent versus child relationship where neither one of them are right. Like it's not like we shouldn't be 100% team Kamala. We shouldn't be 100% team Mr. and Mrs. Khan. Like we have to give both of them some leeway in this relationship, and like that's sort of where the ground is being laid for us in the story of
y'all
the show.
Don't understand what it's like to try and get a scrap of care and attention from y'all's parents, and it shows. But anyways, let's jump into our conversation as a whole. When we kick this off, obviously we all have very different backgrounds when it comes to the character, the entity that is Miss Marvel. So let's dive into that to give the people some context about where they're coming from. Alexis?
You're making me start. I'm going to forgive you for it.
Sorry. I feel like you're the one who has the earliest connection with Miss Marvel.
It is interesting. Yeah, I live in the South, right? This is important to this story. I live in the capital S South. And I remember when the first issue of this comic run came out, because there were protests down the block around my comic book store for carrying it. There was a lot of discontent in this area about featuring a comic with a Pakistani Muslim hero. And it was a very important story to me because my partner at the time was Muslim. And so I was very invested in, that type of story because they were very invested in that type of story. And I remember like being really afraid to like approach the store and get the comic. So I think I actually chickened out and I ordered it. And I read it issue to issue to issue to issue for like the first, 3 collected volumes. And I loved every minute of it. I think there's something about, Kamala and her relation to fandom in the show, but in the comic as well, that's just really appealing. And I think in that moment, I remember there was just a feeling of like Marvel is doing something. Like, I'm not sure they're going to keep doing it. Like Black Widow still didn't have a solo run at the time, but like Marvel is doing something. Like they are making a choice. And I want to be, along the ride for that journey. And I've never regretted it. So I've been really excited about this show because I think like the initial run, that first volume of the comics, right? There was a lot of commentary at the time about what it meant to the communities that it was representing, right? And the really like painstaking choices that they made, the really careful choices that they made to make sure that they were accurately representative of that community and that they were putting forward a story that was going to be meaningful. And a lot of my worry with the show was that we would lose that, right? Because there has been some controversy that I will touch on a little bit later about some choices that the show made that we knew about pretty early on. And so this first episode was so exciting to me because I think in this episode, at least, it was also very clear that they made very deliberate choices. They made very particular, careful choices in every aspect of the show. And I really walked away from it being like, I think this is one of the shows that has probably had the most care and attention of the MCU shows that we've gotten so far. So it was great to kind of see that carry forward into this. I don't know if that answered your question, but
It does. Thank you. I got into interacting with this character first. Spoiler, sorry y'all, it's a video game, stay from me. But there's a video game called Marvel's Avengers. It's not a great game. It's a good game. I had fun with it, but is by no means a great game. Let me just start there. But the first like story, the like base story of this game is about Kamala Khan. And so it starts with you're following Kamala going to Avengers Day, which there's a screenshot of that outside. And this is kind of like the Avengers Con, but it's more of a celebration, right? This is post Avengers. Some of them are in hiding, some of them are not existing, and this is a big like showcase, right? And then on the like ship or whatever that this Avengers Day celebration is on, there's the Terrigen stuff, so it ties into all the Inhuman stuff. And so I started playing this last summer, right around the time I was watching through all the shows. So I'd seen most of the movies. I was a couple months previous, and I was just getting to all of the Marvel shows. And so that was a really interesting connection for me, being like, oh, I know who the Inhumans are. I'm watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? But one of my favorite parts about this game is it's really a love letter. And as a game, there's collectible items, and most of the collectible items are comic book covers. And so there's a picture of Kamal holding the Miss Marvel comic that was very exciting. And so this was like before I had read any comics from the Marvel side. And so I got to see all of these beautiful covers that I was collecting going through this game. And that was kind of like my starting point with this character. And playing as her is so fun. You get the in beginning powers and a little bit of healing stuff, right? But just the story of a fan of superheroes becoming a superhero, and having that, like, there's a really beautiful mentor relationship in this game, and just then seeing her like grow into herself there's a picture from the end game with her in the iron suit, the shiny one. Yes. She's so cool. She's so cool. So yeah, that was my initial introduction to Kamala Khan, was through Marvel's Avengers, and I really loved her story in this game, and there's multiple like additional stories after hers in the game, but those aren't as important to the conversation we're having today, so I will not go on a rant about this. But I can if you want that later. But yeah, that was my introduction, and then I kind of went through the covers that I'd seen in the game and used those as jumping off points for reading some stuff. Marissa?
Yeah. This is a rare first time I read the comics before I watched the show.
Ooh.
If you might remember, I took a comic studies class a while ago, and one of the sort of lessons topics was diversity in comics, and we were assigned, I think, only the first issue of Miss Marvel. And on like the first page, she's writing fan fiction on. I was sold, and I read the whole volume. So it's exciting to like have the comics background, a little bit of it, going into the show. It's also weird, because it is different. And so now I understand Alexis's opinion about Civil War. So I don't know if I will do it again. But it's fun and exciting to have my like Leonardo DiCaprio meme moment of like, I know what that is.
Yes.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
All right, we roughly brushed on this at the top, but vibe-wise, how is this comparing? What are your thoughts and feelings? I think we're all of the opinion that it ranks very highly in our personal lists for the Disney Plus shows. But before I go on a rant about editing, does somebody want to talk about what do you think of the style, the tone, the vibes?
It feels like too congratulatory to say it feels so unique, because like, thank you for doing the bare minimum and making your content diverse, but like it feels so unique to the other Disney Plus series, and it's like so refreshing and fun. And like, I understand that like it definitely has a slightly different target audience than like Moon Knight or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it embraces that and understands that. Whereas like, I keep going back to Hawkeye because I feel like it is just the most generic of the Disney Plus shows, where it's like casting a really wide net audience wise. I'm so sorry, Sly.
No, you're so right. I'm just heartbroken that I didn't love it.
Yeah. It's like casting a really wide net. It's trying to cover a bunch of characters, a bunch of stories,
Holidays.
sort of, a bunch of holidays, throwing in a musical number. Like, this feels so specific, and like,
somebody get a specific counter going, please.
we get like a ding for every specific. Yeah, I it's the thing I've been most excited about since WandaVision. It's like what I wanted Loki to feel like. Like, going into Loki, it was like, this is gonna be new and fun and exciting, and then it wasn't. But with this, I'm really excited by it. Energized. Makes me feel good. The vibes are good.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
It doesn't matter. Don't make me choose.
I'm gonna go on a rant then.
Okay.
Y'all, the style, the brand, the energy that this show has it's just so exciting because this isn't something we've seen since WandaVision, right?
Mhm.
WandaVision had a style, it had a brand, and it stuck to it, and it knew who it was, and it
Yes.
knew who it was for, and it committed, and it was so successful and wildly popular. And I don't think anybody can argue that WandaVision isn't a great show, right? And then we get other styles of shows, right? And they have their own like kind of twist and turn, and Loki's really trying with like the colors and the space, but it's not really unique or iconic. Like
Mhm.
when you think Loki, there isn't like a specific style that immediately comes to mind, and that's a problem when you're creating a multiverse of content. You want every single project to have something that makes it stand out, makes it iconic, and that's how you get lasting impact. And this show is so iconic. The editing is just so unique and so stylized, and even ignoring all the animation, which is great and amazing, just like the pure editing, how they transition different scenes, how they cut together different scenes is just so good. And those animators are fucking having the times of their lives. The way they incorporated art and different styles and different like drawing techniques is so cool, and is so representative of like, fandom is such a monolith, but also so specific per each subgroup, right? Everybody has their own niches and their own styles, and then when they come together, it creates such an interesting dynamic. And the animation in the show, how they incorporated, that hand-drawn style into the actual scenes, like the graffiti scene, like the texting scene, was so well done. And when you think of Miss Marvel, even one episode in, there's a distinct style that you're picturing, and that's just so cool. And again, feels like we're congratulating them for the bare
I know.
minimum, but I'm excited about it. Okay,
Like, congratulations, your series has an identity.
right, Alexis.
I'll say to start off, Danny has a great comment here about how exciting it was that this show had color, right? It's like a very colorful, bold show. And I think the thing I got most excited about was like 30 seconds into this show, I knew what the show was going to look like. I knew what where it was setting up Kamala and fandom, like what she was going to look like, what her energy was going to be. And it did a really good job kind of disguising, just telling me a lot of stuff with this really incredible animation. Like I didn't even really, care. And it, when I went to undergrad 1,000 years ago, okay, I was
Alexis loves to act like she's the oldest person on the planet, and I get
so
so upset.
Old. I'm so old. I went to an honors arts college, and we had to take this really annoying class every semester called Artistic Vision, where we just talked about what art was. And by which I mean we like all showed up with food to eat, and we just like chatted about like the Playboy Club was really big at the time, the TV show.
Yeah.
We just like, chatted about stuff. But it was my first exposure to Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the film. And I remember at that time being like, this movie has a very distinct style that tells me like where it's drawing from and tells me what it's about. And I kind of felt like the style of this show was kind of like like Scott Pilgrim had walked so that this show could run, right? It had was kind of vaguely reminiscent of that style in a way that was really exciting, and not, cliche or anything. So I thought that was great. One of the things I really liked, was there's when we get the Miss Marvel title card, it like changes between like different fonts and styles. So that was so cool, but also really indicative of like this coming of age story where like she's going to change throughout the story, and like what, her different pieces of her personality look like. Just, I think though there have been family Disney Plus shows, this was the first one. I have cousins that are like 11 and 13. And this was the first one where I was like, I want them to watch this show, right? Like this is going to be an inspiring show. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a show, that they want to watch just based on what it looks like. So I don't know that I answered any question there, but
yeah,
you did. On the topic of different fonts and different styles for the logo, right? There were really cool ones. There was one that I'm a really big fan of. You'll know which one it is for all of our YouTube replayers out there. That I'm really, really annoyed, Disney Plus, that you didn't include this in your press kit as an alternate logo because it's very good, and I had to not so obtain it. Because it's really awesome, and you should make that available for people doing fan-oriented content around your stuff to help promote your stuff. Speaking of fan-oriented content, let's talk about AvengerCon.
Really quickly, can I backtrack for like 2 seconds?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Yes,
No,
of
I just
course.
wanted to say to the Scott Pilgrim thing. In press, Scott Pilgrim and Lady Bird are being brought up a lot as like reference points and comparisons. And from the very first episode, you can see both of those references already. And I just think like, again, not to pat Marvel on the back, but like they're doing what they're saying they're doing for once. So that was it. Let's talk about AvengerCon. I have so many thoughts.
I'm stepping back.
Okay.
Claw, there's a really great Claw comment that I think is everything I was trying to say that I didn't say well. Was that it is not a Disney Channel show, but it is a show that would, kind of fit for that generation, the new Disney Channel generation.
Disney Channel wishes it was Ms. Marvel.
Yeah. Really, but it's got that like fun poppy, like it has energy that I don't think the other shows have. Somebody move on. Sorry.
It has a youthful energy.
Yeah. I'm so old.
Energy.
I really
Thank
enjoy
you for joining us, hanging out on TikTok. If you want to see all of our youthful graphics, come hang out on YouTube and Twitch. Look at that. Still dragging these transitions by my fucking teeth. AvengerCon. Let's talk about it. Fandom. Wow. So often fandom gets overlooked in stories. And to have a representation of a convention, boy, do I have so many thoughts. I know Marissa has so many thoughts. Let's get into it. Please share your thoughts. Any of our friends here hanging out, if you've been to cons, if you've had similar experiences, let's talk about it, because conventions, boy, do I have a lot of opinions from both the fan side and an employee side. So let us know all of those thoughts.
Yeah.
Marissa, I know you've been chomping at the bit to talk about AvengerCon. Well, where do you want to start this conversation?
I keep thinking about the implications it has for like the broader MCU and what it says about how the MCU is becoming self-referential and how, because the MCU has become so large, they can sort of spoof themselves in a lot of ways. I'm also very confused by the choice of Camp Lehigh. That can be a separate conversation. It's also just a very small venue for the scale of what they were trying to do, and very poorly lit. That really bothered me. It was very darkly lit. It was cool.
I hate to break it to you, that is what conventions look like.
I've never seen
especially big
a
conventions
stall that was that dark.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you've ever been in the Washington State Convention Center during any of the big shows, not like a Emerald City Comic Con is a little more bright, but during a PAX, the show floor is very dark. It is very much, dim lights, bright colors on the booths, all of the neon. That was very iconic for a convention look.
Maybe
Absolutely.
the Midwest just likes fluorescent lighting more. I don't know.
But yeah, that was one thing. When they walked into the convention, right? The flashing your badge, right? That took me back. A nonsensical layout of the stalls, which is so true for every convention. right? The big set pieces that are just kind of more advertising than they are enjoyment. Also very iconic. But this brings me back to my fucking point. Instead of Liz's plumbing corner, because Liz is not here and we didn't have much plumbing in this episode, can we get a Sly's OSHA corner? What the fuck was that Ant-Man helmet made out of? How was it secured? How did anybody approve that? How was it destroying walls? I have so many questions. And no answers.
Yeah.
Somebody transitioned me out of this rant about the fucking Ant-Man helmet.
I did, going off of that, I did think Camp Lehigh was such an interesting place to have this because
my God.
automatically in my head, I heard like that commercial where it's like, if you went to a convention at Camp Lehigh 10 years ago, you're entitled to compensation for radioactive poisoning. Like,
Yes.
like we say, right? This is not a...
Are we ignoring the secret organization that was formed in the basement of this camp? Like, have we just erased that from history? Are we just like also... Like, Hydra aside, can we just let Steve Rogers rest, please?
Yes.
Can we move on? Finally, Star Spangled Man with a Plan is an iconic song, and we should all be thanking Alan Menken. But can we move on? Why? Like, I understand he's the first Avenger, but why does Steve Rogers continue to be the face of the MCU? He's gone. He's gone.
Let him rest.
There was no energy for Sam Wilson.
Give Sam a new Alan Menken song, right? Bring him back.
That Captain America
But we can
cosplay,
move on.
none of them were Sam Wilson Captain America cosplayers.
I want the R&B man with a plan. Like, somebody make that happen.
We got the like offbeat John Walker version with the marching band.
I don't want the marching band John Walker version.
Also a vibe, but we cannot embrace the John Walker version.
No.
Okay, but the costume competition. Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts. I don't know where I want to start. I love that so much of the episode was getting to that, right? I'm so glad that the convention was not the whole episode, right? I want the shopping montages. I want the guidance counselor conversations. And then we finally get there and there's all the different costumes and just being able to have the foresight to create a project that you can reference your own media so incredibly. That was just so fun. And like one tangent here. I feel like somebody else put this in their notes is that anybody else get very queer vibes from Zoe?
Yeah.
Like
the eyeliner alone.
Well, and like I'm having a very gay June. Okay, I'm gonna be real honest, right?
It's Pride Month, as you should.
Pride Month has been extremely gay for me. But when we have the moment where like Kamala saves her, I was like, is this gay? Is this somebody? I need someone to confirm that they're
the
gay.
starts in school.
It starts in the stairway.
School. Yes.
They walked
there
out.
too. Yes.
That moment was so gay. And just like every time you see Zoe and Kamala near each other, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm not alone. I was panicking a little bit.
No, you're right on the money. I don't know if that was the intent, but it's definitely the perception.
One of the things I did find really interesting about the two of them like existing together, right, was I feel like they're like when I went to high school a billion years ago, you can take a sip every time I reference my age. But
take a sip every time Marissa says specific and every time Alexis talks about how old she is.
Yeah. But like fandom wasn't a thing that you talked about, right? Like I remember getting on TikTok like 2 years ago, and people were talking about fan fiction, and I was like, we're doing that now? Like that was not a thing that like people knew about me. And I feel like now, as fandom has become more and more mainstream, we start kind of having this really toxic conversation about like who is a real fan, right? And so I thought it was so interesting to see Kamala, who we know is a fan, is kind of a nerd, right? And then see Zoe, who has kind of been cast for us already as this like popular girl, also engaging in this fandom
The blonde,
community.
white, popular girl.
Yes, the blonde, right? I was
Mhm.
like, there is so much, right? And Kamala even says, like, she doesn't even really like the Avengers, right? And I was like, that's so interesting to kind of that not only has Marvel become self-referential, but that they've become knowledgeable enough about what's happening in the world, which is not something that we typically see from them, to set this narrative up in their narrative, up in their story. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I have this friend who sometimes I'll say something and they'll text me back and they'll be like, that was really gay. And I did the entire scene. I was
You can call me out.
A friend of mine. You
might have heard of
fine.
It's fine. It's not like we're married or anything.
Really queer messages to will respond to be like, that was really gay. And that entire scene, I was like, that was really gay.
Yes. Can someone just confirm to me that I'm right, because I like being right? Zoe's outfit is the Carol Danvers Miss Marvel outfit, right?
Yes, it was very.
Thank you. I felt so smart when I realized that.
Well,
Thank you.
I also loved in the early animation, like the animation, the very beginning of the episode, she goes through all the Captain Marvel hairstyles. It's like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so yes.
I was so worried about how they were going to explain away a character that has been in a movie and a half as like the bastion of superhero, and they did it. They did it so well. I was like, yes, 100%. Kamala knows everything. Carol Danvers absolutely is her hero. When there's nothing to know about her.
Right. And like almost in one line, she's just like, let a woman live. And I was like, done. Like, moving on, right?
Let a woman live indeed.
Yeah.
All right. It feels like we're jumping into kind of the lore. No. That was a good hits right into our next. I'm trying to smoothly transition here.
Sorry.
Don't apologize.
Reset. Do it again.
All right. We're talking about the lore, the universe, how things are interacting, what things are changing. There's been a lot of conversations around powers and what that looks like in reference to this character. One thing I want to know before I throw this to Alexis is that I'm giving you a heads up, but now it's a Marissa issue. There's a picture of Kamala Khan from the game with the bangle, so that looks pretty similar to me, at least. And so when I saw how it was, designed on the show, I was like, that kind of looks like her character in Marvel's Avengers. Funny that. But anyways, Alexis, I think you put these articles in here. You want to brush on that?
Yes. So okay, here's the thing. Before this show started, we knew that a power change had occurred. And at the time that was announced, there was a big conversation happening in the community. A lot of Muslim and Pakistani content creators talking about how they actually thought this was a little problematic because her initial powers, which we talked about, and you can go back. There's an episode in our archive where I break all this down. But briefly, right, the Cliff Notes version, we're talking about how her powers in the comics were not really indicative of magic. Right. And kind of introducing powers that may look more magic-y or be more indicative of magic were culturally and religiously offensive. Right. What I have seen this week is all sorts of people from that community, people who are very famous, people who are Nobel Peace Prize winners and should be referred to as such, all sorts of important people stepping up and saying that they are really excited about this content and not talking about the power. So I I think we're largely in a place where we can just like kind of move on and be like, we're okay. But what bothered me was that Marvel did an interview about it. Right? I feel like this is the same thing that happened with Falcon and Winter Soldier. I was like, we're all kind of accepting that this is a thing. And then Marvel was like, nah, right? We're going to do an interview and get ourselves in trouble. They did an interview about it and basically said what we didn't want them to say, right? They said, we changed her powers because really vague stuff is going to happen in the MCU. And we want her powers to be consistent with that. And I have a couple issues with that, right? One is that none of the magic in the MCU is consistent. We don't know how any of it works. We don't know how any of it relates to each other, right? So I don't know why Kamala needs to be the sacrificial lamb. And two is it really, for me, it depends on who you are changing her powers to be more consistent with. Because I don't want this character to be put in a place where she needed to change so that certain white male characters could be more understood in the MCU. And that's kind of the vibe we get from this really like answer, non-answer, right? So all I will say is that the powers changed. Marvel stuck their foot in their mouth about it, but the community seems fine with it, so I'm going to be fine with it. And the bracelet, I put it in the doc. I don't know if you can get to it, Marissa. But the bracelet is a really cool comic reference about kind of border issues that were happening in Pakistan at the time, is how it's introduced in the comics. And I'm sure, I mean, we have very, very smart, very well-read viewers. So I'm sure everybody knows that. But that was very exciting for me to see that kind of the reference was still there in the show, that it was still a family heirloom, and all of those types of things. So that is my rant about powers.
Which article is it, Alexis?
It's not an article. It's a picture at the very bottom.
Oh.
Not very bottom. Hang on. It's a picture at the top. At the very top.
Oh. Okay. Yes. I don't know how I'm gonna get that. Hold on.
Don't worry about it. We'll move on. I'll post it somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
But yeah, there's this idea of like, I understand they're not wanting to do Inhuman stuff. They're not wanting to like, Inhumans has already been done in, you know, not very successful properties. It's there. It exists in the multiverse, right? But it's not something they want to focus on or address in like the core content moving forward. And I understand that and I get that. And I think there's a potential for them to have a really interesting story around that. But I also agree that if they're only doing it because they introduced another person with kind of similar vibes, who's a white man, we don't like white men here. Sorry.
I just keep hearing that sound on TikTok that's like, oh, white man, no.
Yeah, I remain cautiously optimistic. I was a little upset at the initial walk back on Pretty Powers. Because it's a big deal that she doesn't have pretty powers, but I do think that we're being set up to have a story that is still, you know, sort of Kamala versus her powers.
Yes.
Which like we really saw within AvengerCon. So I'm still cautiously optimistic. I would like to believe potentially the change was made so it's a more visual link with Monica and Carol, because we do still sort of have an embiggening thing happening, maybe. But I don't know. We'll wait and see. White men, you're not welcome here.
Pretty much. All right. Before we get into our future talk, is there anything, last thoughts, feelings you want to touch on about this episode before we talk about where we're going in the future?
I will talk more about this episode. So there were two pieces of this this episode that really kind of stood out to me that I still wanted to touch on. One, I don't know if anyone out there watched Roswell, New Mexico, and in fact, I hope you were still not watching the show because it had its moment. But one of the really interesting commentaries early on in that show, right, it's a show set in New Mexico with largely a cast of immigrant children who speak other languages. One of the things that they had in the commentary very early on was that they were allowed to use language and customs in the show that white American audiences would not understand as long as they could still follow the larger story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was something they did so deliberately that it really kind of lost its authenticity, right? But this idea is something we got a little bit in Shang-Chi, right? Where we had cultural practices used and we had language used, and it wasn't really explained to the vast audience. And we, went along with it, and that's how it should be, right? And that was something that I was so excited to see in Ms. Marvel, that there were lots of instances of like language drops. There were many different foreign languages used in the episode. There were lots of references to cultures and practices, and they didn't stop to be like, hey, yo, white audience, we're taking a moment to explain this to you. It just went on, right? Which is really important for the interior world of the show. That is also really important for representation. And I don't want to keep patting them on the back for doing what they're supposed to do, but like gold star for doing what you're supposed to do. The second, which I just find weird, but maybe more in line with what Marvel, I often say that I feel like the MCU is kind of like 5 to 10 years behind in its representation, into what other shows are doing now or have done several years ago. And I do feel that the representation of education in this show was a little dicey, right? I think there are a lot of other.
So funny because that conversation with the guidance counselor, I was like, ooh, yeah.
I had that
Unhelpful
conversation.
Guidance counselors in high school, very accurate, right?
But I think there are. I don't think that it's inaccurate. I think that there are important educational conversations happening now, especially in other shows like Abbott Elementary, that are kind of touching on things that this show so avoided that it almost seemed a little out of date. And maybe that's like, I'm a teacher, right? I'm in that sphere. So I'm seeing these conversations happen all the time. But I did think that maybe there was some space in this show, and maybe there still is space in this show to have a teacher that's maybe a little more forward thinking or is having some of the conversations about education, like the importance of student names that we are having now to the point that there have been several books written about them.
I was going to slap that man.
Yeah. So I am interested to see where that goes. And yeah, there we go.
It is definitely speaking to the student more than the teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had another thing to say about Alexis's first point. Oh! The Arabic and Urdu is in the captions. It doesn't just say speaking Urdu.
Yes.
And this is so, especially with scripted shows, it's in the script. Like, it's written out. It's so easy to, just put it in the captions like that. Thank goodness. I was very excited to see that because, it doesn't matter what language it's being said. If it's auditory information that a hearing person would understand, potentially present it in the same way and allow deaf people who would also understand that information the same opportunity. I also wanted to rant about that. So thank you, Marissa, for bringing that up. But yeah, it's especially with stories that are so representative of specific cultures that utilize other languages, representing them in a way that's accessible to all audience members is so important because there's a lot of deaf people who don't speak English. There's a lot of deaf people who speak multiple languages. Most deaf people are usually at least bilingual. So, like, come on.
Yeah. Again, I'm pitching again my bare minimum rainbow.
We need the more you know, but the bare minimum.
Yes,
Somebody
exactly.
make that graphic, please.
There was
Exactly.
also a lot of diversity in the representation of the show. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. And that was really important to me, right? Like we saw students in hijab and students out of hijab. There was a reference early on to certain members of the family perhaps being more religious than other members of the family, and certain members of the family having certain customs that others didn't. And that's what we should see. But I don't know that I think even now on television, when we see a particular people group represented, they are all represented the same way, right? Like every character of that, culture that you see on the show is the exact same. And so it was interesting to see kind of diversity within the representation on the
Yeah, it's back to that talking point. Specificity is representation. So you're getting very specific, singular characters all representing a community, not a community representing a single character.
Exactly.
Did that make sense? I don't know. Moving on.
Moving on, I want to give us a chance to talk about our thoughts, our predictions, our hopes for the show moving forward. I will go ahead and kick this off. Again, this is a coming of age show. It's meant for, a slightly younger skew. So when we're looking at like analyzing, like the idea of foreshadowing, I think there's more that we might get out of it because of our, media literacy. But there was so much foreshadowing around how the mom reacted to the bangle and I'm really excited. I'm sure like there was something I'm pretty sure there was something in the mom's childhood that surrounds that is the reason why she has so much concern about Kamala being such a creative type, right? Having all these creative ideas and being less grounded, I guess. I hate that phrase, but I want to know more about that inciting incident, what's going on with that, how that ties to the mom and her relationship to this artifact, and how that conflict might appear going forward. That's something I the whole episode from that first scene opening the box with it, I was like, ooh, I want to know more about what's mom's feelings and relationship to this. So that's what I'm looking forward to and predicting going forward.
Yeah. There are like several references to Kamala's grandmother and her relationship to the bangle, and her mom's relationship to her grandmother and the bangle, and like we're in for a very exciting mother-daughter coming of age, coming into your powers conversation, and I'm looking forward to it.
Any other speculation for you?
I think the implication of damage control is really interesting. And how we're really being set up for a Kamala versus her powers conflict rather than a superhero versus villain conflict. And how she comes into her powers, how she gains control of her powers, if she needs to gain control of her power. Like this whole conversation of like who she is and her identity in relationship to her powers. Can you still hear me? I feel like I might be frozen. No. Great. Okay. And like how damage control relates to that, and like potentially how She-Hulk relates to that, because we know She-Hulk is I think we know that She-Hulk is gonna tie into damage control and like representing superheroed individuals. I think that's true. I believe.
I'm sure. I haven't seen any
the
trailers,
job
so
she gets?
I have no idea.
Great.
Somebody else confirm or deny. All right, Alexis, do you have any predictions going forward?
No, I really don't. Listen, I I am not a fan of coming of age stories generally. I was very much a fan of this one, right? And so I just want more of what you gave me in this episode in the rest of them, right? That's kind of,
Keep
I have
the
a lot
energy,
of,
keep
yeah,
the vibes.
yeah, I have a lot of anxiety about that right now. So if you could just keep it going forward, that would be great. I don't want to turn in episode 2 and it be like Hawkeye. All of a sudden, I think I would be sorry. It'd be some other gray tone show that didn't live up to that didn't succeed in the promise of the premise. Yeah. So just give me more of what you gave me. It was so exciting. Just give me more.
Yeah.
All right. That was our topic of the show. That was Miss Marvel episode 1. I am very excited for episode 2. You know, I very positive feelings moving forward. This is going to be going to be one of those shows where I'm excited to watch it the day it come out and to not be dragging and like an hour before the show texting Alexis being like, hey, will you watch this with me so I don't give up on it halfway through, right? So very big fans of Miss Marvel so far here on We'll Throw the After Party. Of course, we will be back next week with Liz's thoughts on both episode 1 and 2 to see how she's feeling. Hopefully, she's also going to be very positive on it, like we are. Or if not, we'll have interesting conversations. So be sure to hang out next week to get all of Liz's thoughts. With that, let's transition.
I do have to say, it was exciting. It was just really quickly. Like, it was exciting coming into this episode of our show because we didn't really have like a conversation about how we felt about Ms. Marvel before we did this. We were just like, I think everybody else, at least for me, I was like, I think everybody else liked it. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna have a big debate. I was like excited to like have a conversation about a thing that I liked instead of coming and being like, I didn't like it. It didn't do what I thought it was going to do. And I can't believe I have to keep watching it because we're doing this show.
And here's how we would have done it better.
Yeah,
exactly.
Here's how I would have remade the entire show, and now we all have to live with knowing that it could have been done that way.
But now we get to come here and congratulate Marvel for doing the bare minimum. Yay!
I want confetti so I can be like, yay!
We can get like party poppers.
I want to get like a box of worms. Have the worms on the string.
I was like, that went a completely
I was like a box of worms in dirt.
Yeah, I was very much in like Becca Bobfly land with that one.
No, I thought you meant like a tub of worms, like when you go fishing.
See, like that's worms. What I was like, yeah. I was flashing back to another scene where bugs climb out of people's faces, and it was a lot.
Speaking of people never understanding the things that I'm passionate about or care about, let's talk about what's been under the radar this week in the news, in various content, what we've been enjoying that nobody else has been yelling about. I'm sorry, we're hitting the end of a very long day. These transitions are not doing too well.
No, they're
it
great.
Doesn't help that Marissa keeps walking them back.
Because you keep saying things and I'm like, oh, I have a thing to say, but then you keep talking and I'm like, okay, I'll let you finish.
I'll shut up now.
Every time Marissa backtracks a transition.
Sly, you're doing a great job.
What have people not been talking about enough this week?
Schmigadoon! Nobody has ever been talking about Schmigadoon.
Aaron Tveit thing, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. I just know he's in it.
I have no clue what this is.
Schmigadoon is a musical comedy television series on Apple TV+.
Okay.
It takes a modern day couple, drops them into a musical, like a golden age musical, basically, and they can't escape. It's I don't know how, I'm not selling it very well. It's Cecily Strong and Keegan-Michael Key dropped into a musical. Like, it's like a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. That's season 1. Season 2, which just got announced like yesterday, is Schmicago. Schmigadoon is like Brigadoon. It's Schmicago. It's going to, like, the town is called Schmigadoon and it's a musical town. Now it's called Schmicago, which is like Chicago. And we're getting 60s and 70s Fosse, Ben Verdon style musical in season 2. Same cast returning, plus Patrick Page and Titus Burgess. Very excited. I feel like nobody talks about Schmigadoon, and it's just a great show, and I'm very excited that it will be continuing because I really didn't think it was going to.
I'm not a big comedy person, but I did love Gallivant after people forced me to sit down and watch it. I did eventually, fall in love with Gallivant. And I feel like this is the same thing. Or like I know I would like it, but I just have not been motivated to sit down and watch it.
Here's another word drop. It's very specific. It has very detailed references. Oscar winner Ariana DeBose is in it. Jane Krakowski, Kristen Chenoweth, Dove Cameron, Alan Cummings, Anne Harada, other men that I don't. Aaron Tveit.
Aaron Tveit? Excuse you.
It's all you could want from like a musical spoof. It's like
one
Camelot
of the very
does
few
Rogers
men that I
Camelot.
like.
Yes, it's like Spamalot, but Rodgers and Hammerstein. It's really good. So that's a thing.
Sorry to interrupt you, Marissa, but I do appreciate that. I think on this show we've come up with very specific ways to refer to certain people, right? So we have like, the way we talk about Anna Tindler. But I love that you're like Oscar winner, Ariana DeBose. Like, I'm like, okay, we'll have to add that one.
Dan Stevens instead of Dan Stevens.
Yeah, in our list of people.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Also under the radar, Dear Evan Hansen is closing on Broadway. I like to think that our show is a little bit responsible for that. I just knew Liz was going to be thrilled by that news. That's that. Lots of other fun stuff I'm yelling about on Twitter. If you want to know about, I'm trying to watch a lot of like queer content lately. So, I watched Fire Island, really enjoyed that. I watched Crush. Didn't love it. We're really hurting for WLW content. Let's just be real. I'm going to watch First Kill, which just came out on Netflix. Queer Vampire Ladies.
I love a queer vampire lady.
I love a queer vampire lady, but it does not look good, and I'm really upset.
I was so excited, and then I read this absolutely scathing review.
Was it the variety review?
I don't know. It basically said it was worthy of being compared to the CW.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Come From Away closing, yes, heartbreaking, but Jen Coella reprising.
Jen Coella is back for the summer, yes, baby!
My heart is broken that it's closing, but Jen Coella!
Also, let's be real, Come From Away still gets the last laugh. They outlast Dear Evan Hansen. They're closing 2 weeks later. So
they did. And they've toured twice. Like they're killing it.
They've have a pro shot on Apple TV.
Shows. They have a pro shot.
Dear Evan Hansen has a movie that people don't speak of.
Speaking of pro shots from that season, please, for the love of God, let me buy Bandstand. I will give you money. Just put it somewhere where I can buy it so I don't have to pirate it.
Just gotta go to Lincoln Center. Just go to the Lincoln Center archives. Like anyways. I love when people are like, every show on Broadway has been professionally recorded. They're available at the Lincoln Center archives. It's like, okay, you have to have like specific academic dispositions. Like
you have to write a paper why you need access to it, and you can never check it out again for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so accessible, y'all.
Yeah. Anyway.
Sorry.
Queer content for Pride, Schmigadoon, season 2. Oh, also What We Do in the Shadows is coming in a month, and I'm so excited for season 4. That's it. I'm done. Sorry. I spent too long on that.
You're good. No, you're fine.
We got time. We got time. We never have time.
I'm running
because we had such
show.
positive things to say. We didn't have to tear it apart.
So we have time.
Okay,
All right.
I'm done
Speaking
now.
of things we love, Alexis, what have you been loving?
I knew you were going to make me go next. Okay, so this is a little bit of like a story, but I'm going to try to go through it really fast. I have a lot to say about this. So I'm old, right? I'm old, and
Somebody take a shot.
But one of the things I've been thinking about lately, right, is that the way that we experience media and what we expect and what we accept from media changes pretty quickly, right? And I was thinking a lot about what it has changed, how it has changed in the 20 odd years that I've been consuming media, right? And the conversations about media that have changed. And JJ and Sly were having a really great conversation at some point. It may have been off mic. I don't remember when it was being had. But about
What conversation do we have? Every time JJ and I talk face to face, we're drunk, so I don't remember any of our conversations.
Well, and it may have been I may have had the same conversation with both of you separately. But we've had it, okay? And it was about queer storytelling, right? And the queer storytelling that we expect from media now, what type of stories that we want, what kind of queer stories we want to see in media, and who is allowed to tell those stories, right? And this is a conversation that 20 years ago was happening very differently in my world, right? This is also where I remind everybody that I live in the South with a capital S, right? And so that conversation is very different where I live. And one of the things that made me think about was kind of that there is a generational and cultural cap on media representation, right? Like certain generations will only experience a certain amount of representation on media, right? In media, because media is constantly changing. And there are certain Marvel properties, maybe particularly, that have been banned from other countries or in the past have been changed so that they were more accessible to other countries who had different values, right? And so there is kind of a cap on the representation that those countries will be able to receive. And we are a show that talks a lot about the importance of representation, right? Okay. So the background of this very short point that's not really going to matter, right? But so I live in the South, right? I was an actor in the South. I worked on political campaigns in the South. I was almost a politician in the South. Yay, Alexis, right? And there were very, in those spaces, which were particularly liberal spaces for where I live, there was still a very distinct understanding of who I could be as a person and what I could look like as a person to other people, right? And that is something I've really struggled with. Looking at the way media is talked about now, especially on TikTok, I think we talk about it like everyone is at the same place in their identity journey at the same age. I think that is very wrong, right? So after I talked to Sly and JJ a bunch, I ended up going and looking up this article from a year ago, right? It was coming out article that Ronan Rubinstein from 911 Lone Star did, and it changed my life, and I sobbed about it, and it was a whole thing, right? And this week there was another article. There was a follow-up article in Hello with some absolutely lovely photos that I will be copying, and it was just a continuation on what it is like to be. What it is like to come out from a different culture and with different support systems, and what it is like to tell important queer stories in media, and what it's like to be an important person telling those stories. I know Rafa did one as well that's difficult to get your hands on in English, but you can find it.
I struggled my way through. I have the reading comprehension of probably like it used to be around third grade and probably back down to kindergarten in my Spanish comprehension. I spent hours reading that article. Very good, but it was a tough one to get through.
It was the only time my ex-partner's Portuguese has come in handy. I was very excited. I was like, yes, finally. That trauma is good for something. But no, seriously, they're really good articles, and they made me sob a lot, and they were really impactful. And so I encourage everyone to go out and read them. And June is very gay, and somebody take this away from me because I'm just going to keep going on.
Speaking of June being very gay, There's a podcast I want to talk about that is very gay, and it's also very Jane Austen, called Gay Pride and Prejudice. It is a Spotify original podcast. This isn't in my what I've been enjoying for one reason, and that's because it's been a little bit of a struggle for me to get through because there are transcripts, but they're only on the Spotify app and they're auto-generated, so that takes me a little bit longer to get through. You know, it's still better than nothing. It helps, like, I can use my residual hearing and the transcript and get a better grasp. But the cast is incredibly star-studded. The story is Pride and Prejudice, but gay. It's set in 2015, post legalization, right? And so it's the story of you know, the people who were in their mid-20s at that time, who never really thought of, like, marriage as an option before, suddenly having this option, and, you know, the friend groups that come along with being queer and what that looks like. And they have a really, I found this podcast through the interview that the creator did on my favorite Jane Austen podcast, which is Pod and Prejudice, which is like book comment and media, Austen media commentary. They did an interview with the creator talking about, like, how it came, what it's about. Highly recommend that first, and then check out the trailer. But yes, it's just everything I could want in a story. It's queer. It's Jane Austen. It's a Pride and Prejudice telling. There's some really great voice actors. Like, I kind of want to say look at the cast and see who's in it, so you get to be excited about the people in it. I also kind of want to say don't look at the cast and just go in and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got this famous actor. So you make that decision for yourself. If you want to be hyped up by the cool people in it, go check that out. If you want to be surprised, go in getting surprised about it. But yeah, that it's just very much my niche, and I don't see a lot of people talking about audio dramas in general. This is, you know, not necessarily indie audio drama, right? They have the partnership with Spotify, but I love that sphere of the world of indie audio drama creation. There's some really great people, some really great podcasts. If you want to know where to get started, and I know you, DM me. I will give you recommendations. I love audio dramas. They're great. More people need to enjoy audio dramas. This has kind of become an under the radar for like 5 different things. That's fine. Let me recap them for you. Gay Pride and Prejudice, Pod and Prejudice, Jane Austen, in general, any Austen, indie audio dramas, me on the internet, DM me somewhere. All of these things are under the radar.
And speaking of Gay Pride and Prejudice, I just have to bring it back to Fire Island really quickly, because that is
Also,
Gay Pride and Prejudice.
I'm
Available on Hulu right now, or Disney Plus internationally, even though it is a hard R. I just have such a like cognitive dissonance with things that are like very not Disney being available on Disney. Anyway, I've watched Pride and Prejudice. I've definitely watched Pride and Prejudice, but I've watched Fire Island twice now. And Conrad Rickamora is, I think, my favorite Darcy. And he's not even named Darcy. Max Gow, friend of the show now.
Friend of the show, Max Gow.
Did a Harper's Bazaar article on Conrad that I have not read, but I'm very much looking forward to. So if you want more queer Jane Austen, Fire Island is available.
I've been waiting for the end of this week of insanity to get to it, but I'm so excited. All of the Austen content.
Yes! There's also a really great run about Marissa Tomei in it that made me feel personally seen. So,
nice.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Marissa, did you
Yes.
know that you look like Marissa Tomei? Has anybody ever said that to you before in your life?
Like once or twice, yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Hey friends.
What now?
That was the Reddit show. We don't have
Yeah.
Liz here to riff. We have 15 more minutes. I think
Liz
we're gonna
has-
call it
What?
on the TikTok.
Oh yeah,
So,
sure.
So let's say bye to TikTok. Thank you for hanging out. If you want to catch the rest of this conversation, head over to
Whatever that
YouTube
may
and
be.
Twitch. We're gonna riff. You're gonna get a glimpse
Yeah.
of what the show looks like behind the scenes. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you over on YouTube and Twitch.
And you can catch the replay all the time. We'll throw the after party on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, friends. Let's
Can we talk
outro
about the week
ourselves,
Liz is having?
and then we'll give you a glimpse into what the show looks like after we go off the air. So I've been your host this week. I am Sly at SlyCloneMC. I'm a Deaf Queer Jane Austen fan. If you couldn't tell from me yelling this, so you can catch me on all the Hot Game Summer content around the internet. Go check that out. And go check out Thirsty Thursdays this week with a special guest, Mr. Bavessa, yelling about the Tonys.
Yeah.
In my head,
where
that
else can people
went
find you?
with special guest Marissa Tomei. That's how it went. And I was like, oh my god! Like, oh no.
Yes. I'm Marissa at Miss Abobissa on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Disney Plus, Our Flag Means Death, Emmys, campaigns, Bucky with the Cake, Tony's roasting Disney's rainbow capitalism approach to Pride. There's going to be more of that coming. That's Alexis's favorite thing I've ever done.
My favorite video.
Yeah, I'm done with school now, so it's going to be a whole lot of my face. And my face on Thirsty Thursday on Thursday. Yes, if you miss me and Sly so much in the middle of the week that you can't wait to see us on Saturday, come over to TikTok on Thursday.
That's pretty much me every week. I am Alexis, and I am at Alexis Blake Reads Comics on TikTok and nowhere else on the internet because I'm having a moment. So everywhere else, I am at Alexis D Blake with an underscore at the end, and I'm ranting about the things I care about everywhere from, like, I don't know, Twitter to Tumblr at the moment. So come find me and we'll talk about fun stuff. Ta-da.
Yay!
All right.
And of course, you can find Liz at Producer Liz.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Liz is here. Liz hosts the show. You know who she is. You all know who Liz is. She's having the time of her life.
She's having a much more exciting week than any of us.
Thoughts on Fox TV of Twitter capitalizing on 911 in the hiatus? Oh boy.
No, I didn't want you to pick that one because I'm not going to be able to shut up about it. We don't have enough time.
Just to say, we have strong feelings. There's lots of thoughts. Maybe we'll manage to get Alexis on another episode of Thirsty Thursdays to yell about all the hiatus content in the future. Maybe?
Anytime. I will say the only thing that I find to be a little weird, this is my one point, and then you can transition me somewhere else, is that, like, the show has chosen, in capitalizing on the hiatus in June, to, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I thought the show was going to be over. I didn't prepare for this. They have chosen to celebrate certain queer characters, and then other moments where they have, like, kind of canonized things about people, like Buck just never denying that he would go on dates with men, or what was the other one? There was a comment about or 6-inch heels. You know what I'm talking about?
Nancy. Comment?
And there was also a comment by somebody else earlier. Who was it? There was a comment what is that conversation? There is a conversation with Judd. I can't remember who he's talking to, where he talks about the woman that picks him up at the rodeo. And the female character that he's talking to is like, I wouldn't have said no either. Like, but anyway, during the hiatus, they have
Catherine or
is
somebody, I don't know.
I can't remember. But they've kind of ignored all of those things in their hiatus Pride content, which I am mad about, Fox.
If you want more Fox rants, we'll have them on Thirsty Thursdays. Come hang out during hiatus. We have so many thoughts.
My husband is like pulling me off of the
I got you. Okay, Liz is currently in her 1989 era. Apparently, I don't know what that means.
It means she's in New York. It means she's in New York. Liz is having the most exciting week. She has been to a taping of
Colbert.
Late Night with Seth Meyers. I think that's what it's called. I don't really know. It's not the Tonight Show. It's the other NBC one with Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert. She went to tapings of both of those. She's a funny girl on Broadway.
Taylor at Tribeca.
She just saw Taylor Swift at Tribeca Fest earlier today.
I need to schedule my Tribeca demos. Thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
This is actually what the end of the show looks like off mic. It's like us talking about stuff and Sly being like, remind me of blah, blah, blah.
In 20 minutes, I have to. Yeah. Also, she met our friend Bucky in person. So exciting. So Liz is going to knowing her, she's going to dedicate in the show doc 20 minutes to her talking about herself and her week next week.
Tune in for Liz adventures.
Tune in for the Liz update. And you can follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Producer Liz because she is churning out that content.
While we're on the topic of what this show usually looks like, once we go
Are you about
offline,
to make the thumbnail?
I'm not gonna make a thumbnail, but I'm gonna show off the thumbnail for this week because usually what we do is I have an idea, a concept for the thumbnail, right? And then we get offline and I go, what the heck did we just talk about? And then I'm like, hey friends, stare at my Adobe that I spent way too much money on so we can talk about what our thumbnail is going to be look like. But this week I already have it done. I'm going to show it off here because I can. So this is what the thumbnail looks like. We got
everybody applaud.
Marvel. Thank you.
Put some applause in the chat. Claps.
This Miss Marvel logo, yes, it is the neon logo from the mid credits ending because it's way cooler than the one they actually have for the logo press kit. It's fine. We got the conversation, right? We got the TV in the background watching some actors on actors, right? There's also 5 show references hidden in the background that y'all get to try to find and figure out, right? Thank you for the applauses.
Maybe we will, it's not formatted for Instagram, so maybe we'll tweet it and people can zoom in and try and find things because Sly really hid them. Like, we had to really look for the Easter eggs.
I wasn't
it's very
tell
impressive
you how many
once you find them.
But I did give that away. So you know how many to look for, but there's lots of hidden things in there. But I had way too much fun with that. So
it's really good.
Usually it's me screaming at Photoshop while we try to figure out what the heck to put on the thumbnail.
Can I say something really stupid?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has to agree to forgive me. So people are sending you little applause hands. They don't look like hands to me. And all this time in all of our shows where people have sent little applause hands, the whole time I thought they were tacos.
They do kind of look like the taco emoji.
Where it was preferenced
Oh, I love
that they were going to be applause
that.
hands.
My God.
So we've done so many episodes where I've
Okay.
been like, why is JJ sending us tacos?
It is now part of the lore of We'll Throw the After Party. Don't send clapping emojis, send tacos.
Only send tacos. Next week, I'm gonna write it down in the doc. Next week we're gonna ask for you to send applause. And all of you who are here, remember, it's gonna be tacos and we're gonna confuse Liz. Okay? You gotta agree to it here.
Claw is really shaming me, and they look like tacos.
We're
They're
not
just-
shaming here. We validate they look like tacos.
They look like
We
tacos.
support you, Alexis.
These are
Thank you.
the actual tacos.
Mm-hmm.
And these,
They just look like the tacos.
like, it's not
open.
that far off.
Like it's just,
Really not that far off.
Check out episode 12's thumbnail to try to find the hidden tacos. When we
Sorry,
get
I'm
there.
just really stupid sometimes. Okay.
Okay, we have 5 minutes.
Final thoughts, final questions. This is y'all are getting access to Unhinged. We'll throw the
Yeah.
after party crew. Ask about
It's the
anything you
after
want
party
to
after
know.
party.
It's the after party after party. We might not answer them, but it's their questions anyways.
Yeah, for real. Alexis missed all our mailbag episode last week.
No, I was
So-
so sad. I was so sad.
Send Alexis all your mailbag questions. She can
I
answer them
needed-
in 3 minutes.
I needed a mental health break last week.
Yes,
We
you did.
love taking
Oh,
breaks. We
JJ
love
wants to
taking
know why I
breaks.
didn't like Crush. I don't know. It just didn't. It was fine. It wasn't the rom-com I wanted it to be, I guess. I think it was well written. It was better written than it was produced. I think. The script was better than the actual movie. And I watched it, and I can say that I watched it, but I'm still waiting for the great sapphic rom-com.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like I saw that there was a romance novel that was supposed to be coming out that was also young adult lesbian vampires. And now I cannot find it anywhere, but I swear to God, I saw this book on TikTok and I can like picture the cover, but it was lesbian vampires. And I was like, well, that's so weird because First Kill is coming out at the same time. And now I can't find the book anywhere. So if you know what the book is, let me know because I was excited about it.
Okay, JJ agrees with me. Thank you, JJ. Yeah. It felt sort of like an ABC Family movie or like a Hallmark movie in that it just didn't get the time it needed to be as strong as it could have been. I don't know. I really wanted it to be good. I wanted to like it. I thought parts of it were really smart, but yeah. I'm going to watch First Kill. I don't know how many episodes it is. I hope it's not too many. I mean, I like lesbians and I like vampires. So.
Any Tony predictions?
I think I covered it. It's tough this year. I'm not super invested in any of the shows.
I really want For Colored Girls to sweep.
Yes.
It probably won't, but I want it to because it has Trishelle Edmond, who I absolutely love.
Yes.
This is the cast, so that's very
Yes.
exciting for me. We love more deaf people on Broadway.
Yeah.
That's the only like show I was really excited about in recent Broadway or ish was Regina Comment. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, meh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels it's like a weird season because it's like this is a sneak peek of the Thirsty Thursday conversation. But it feels like a weird season because it's like all of the shows that didn't get a chance to open before like the shutdown, but were ready to open like in the few months after the shutdown. So it's like it's not things that have been made and developed during the pandemic yet. It's things that were like waiting for their turn. And now I feel like what we are getting at the start of the next season is things that have really had time to percolate before they
great
hit
word.
the stage. Yeah. I mean, also, I'm still bitter about the Katrina Lenk snub, so I really don't have an opinion about leading actress in a musical.
Fair.
I would like Matt Doyle to win supporting, and I would like, or featured. I think it's featured in the musical and at the Tonys. I think it's featured, and I would like Jen Simard to beat Patti LuPone just because I think it'll be really funny, and also I love Jen Simard. So, company sweep is pretty much what I am, and I think. Oh no, what's his name? I can see his face. He plays Usher in A Strange Loop. I think he will probably get leading actor in a musical.
I don't remember his name.
I know. 30 seconds.
I'm not saying it. Thank you, nobody, for having helpful titles to their articles. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. We had a blast. Next week will be a jam-packed show. So it was nice to have a little cozy, when you're the friend who's like staying to help clean up your friend's place after the party, and you get the nice cozy conversations after the party. That's what this was. Fun times.
Yeah. And if you're still here, this is your reminder to get caught up on Only Murders in the Building, because it's coming back in just a few weeks, and we're going to be talking all about it because we can't handle it. We have to talk about it.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow us on all the socials at AfterPartySHO. Make sure to check out all of us individually. And thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been a blast. I am so ready to go take a nap. I hope y'all are doing well. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.